The year is 2025. I've got 5 flavours, 10 bottles and 0 regrets. So we are still in the big video territory, and following my Scotch of the Year, it is time to cover the best whiskies in 2025, focusing on flavour and categorising them across 5 different flavour groups. We are going to be talking about the best fruit and floral, the best rich and spiced, the best peat and smoked, wood and grainy, and of course the best funky whiskey. So if you are looking to replicate smashing apples on your forehead, licking that uncleaned barbecue, or chewing your pine desk in a dram format, I've got you covered. So grab a dram or 5 and join me, Jeff Whisky, as we cover the whiskies of 2025. And if that sounds good, slap a like and let's crack on.
Jeff Whisky.
Welcome to the Jeffies, where I'll be highlighting the best in whiskey in 2025. These are my pick of the cork pops this year, and have also asked the slappers on Patreon for their picks too. I'm hoping this Beetlejuice on a boat shirt is Jeff Whisky enough, because I'm not going out in the rain to get changed. And I'm ready to dive straight in with the best fruit and floral whiskies. Each category will have a main choice, but also a runner-up to provide more variety and just cover different price points, brands, all that good stuff. And the first runner-up is Ben Romack High Enzyme. Yes, the Jeff Romack Select train pulls into the station once again, and I have no regrets. From first trying this high enzyme release as my first dram at the distillery earlier in the year, it really had stuck with me. This is a fizzy fruit salad on steroids, but there's no roid rage here. It is wildly approachable and just fantastic. This contrast release uses high enzyme barley, which is like supercharged this 12-year-old Scotch full of fruity flavoured compounds. Now I love the contrast releases, and this is experimental without feeling gimmicky. Matured in first fill bourbon and just a banging whiskey. The nose is just full of like pre-ripe bananas when they're still green, pineapple cubes, peach yogurt, and this like slightly waxy creamy note. A bit lemonadey, a bit fizzy, a bit musty. This is your Grand's house in a soda stream. Yeah, a real tropical fruit explosion. Mangoes, pineapples. There's a little bit of raspberry, vanilla cream soda. It's fruity and has this amazing like light funk to it as well. Yeah, a science experiment that's an absolute success. And this is a bottle I'll keep returning to. Though of course for this year, my winner has to be Glencadam 10. If you've watched the channel, this is no shock. Of course, it had to be this. I slept on this bottle for so long, it brings shame to my whiskey credentials. The quiet assassin of Scotch has just a gentle fruitiness and just hits hard, yet soft every time. Yeah, there's lots of like orchard fruits, lemon skin, green apples. Yeah, lots of foamy sweets. I'm thinking like a mixture of foamy bananas and also those like pink shrimps. I don't know if you used to have them in your pick and mix. Yeah, maybe a bit of grass, a bit of hay in the sunshine. The palate, oh, it's just buckets of crisp, crunchy pears, little banana loaf, and again those foamy banana sweets. Custard creams, like the biscuits, and there's this like wonderful, gentle, malty sweetness. Delicate, accessible, but not boring. Yeah, wonderful stuff. I would recommend this to anyone. It is easier than your mate's mum after 5 Chardonnays. I feel saying Chardonnays like a jazzy shirt like this has just upped the pretentiousness of this channel way beyond normal levels. But speaking of punching, this punches way above the price point and remains one of the most refreshing, pure 10-year-old scotches out there. But of course, what did the slappers suggest? Peathead kinda cheating, suggesting several great independent linkwoods. Tobias with Loch Lomond Inchmere in 12. Of course, Paul Gidley agreeing with a Glencadam, and David Owen upping it to the Glencadam 15. Sugar Kitty will be pleased with that one. Squirrel BVC with a 5-year-old Manickmore from Decadent Drams. Or maybe that was 15-year-old. I've noted it quickly. Editor Jeff will correct it. Mac from Campo Planet, of course, on brand with the Flora 2024 from Ikawa Distillery. Probably butchered that. And Jumo Joe with Glengoyne White Oak, which is something I really need to try. Right, so let's move on to best rich and spiced. Flavour wise, these categories are based on the brilliant flavour tree by First Fill Whiskey, Absolutely stunning stuff, and also make sure to check out his new Lord of the Rings inspired flavour map. That is not a sponsor or anything, but it's possibly the coolest whiskey art out there. When he first shared it with me to get some of my big brain design thoughts, I was just blown away by it, and I can't wait to get it up. I think it's going to replace this one, which I've had for many years, or I might find room in the back. Either way, I want to get it on camera because it just looks awesome. But rich in spice is where you find sherry bombs, tongue tinglers, and drams with so much depth. Millionaires are exploring them in submarines. My runner-up is something which has only just come through the door, and it's slowly rekindling my passion of a sherry sucker punch. After Ralphie put it up them, we have the newly released increase in ABV entry of Edgedraw 10 in a very dumpy bottle. Yes, the standard 10-year-old at 40% was well loved, but it's come back with a vengeance and a nice plumped up percentage stating 46% on the label. With the signatory collection drowning in praise, it made sense that this was also brought alongside the enthusiast preference. Now, while I had the signatory unchill filtered Edgedraw 10 a few years back, I've never tried the previous run of the standard Edgedraw 10, so I cannot comment on the difference in flavour trends, but still, it's something that needs to be applauded. There is plums, cherries, ginger cake drenched in more sherry. It does actually smell quite a lot like Pepsi Max cherry. Yeah, there's chocolate orange, dark chocolate, and just an overall really super dense snout sensation. Again, these are all things you will not see in the official tasting notes. The palate is just dark fruits, allspice, those ginger biscuit things that look like a Pringle. It's a bit of well made, perfectly cooked toast with just jam on top. It does get slightly close to the slightly burnt match sulfur note, but it kind of just managed to avoid it. You've got a good sprig of orange zest in there. It's warming, indulgent, bold yet balanced, and just pretty banging. But now let's get to my pick for this year. A real Christmas in a glass kind of dram. Time to fully ignore what past Jeff said. I now feel like Compass Box doesn't miss, and that is why for rich and spiced we're going with the Crimson Cask. This is all about that spicy, sweet depth, a blend that kind of balances all the good stuff from the brilliant boxy folk of Compass. I know I've mentioned this bottle a few times this year, but highlighting it again, there's no regrets. This nose is absolutely just pumped with apples and cinnamon, top tier apple pie stuff. Not that hotter than the sun clown stuff. Black currants, warm, freshly cooked brown bread, sugar sandwiches, bags of spice without shredding the snout too much. It is not like snorting chili powder. Don't do that. Trust me. The palate is just super dense, berry field jam. The spice is really nice. It's not kicking your backside, but it's predominantly pleasing. Yeah. Dark chocolate, oranges, Vimto, spicy Ribena, mulled wine. This is just so good and gets better each time. That finish goes on forever too. It just takes the classic sherry notes but make them feel more powerful and right up in your face instead of sitting in the background in some kind of sherry blob. I will say, following the Edgedraw, this certainly seems more lively, more fizzy, more punchy. And we also have the slappers shouting out Kawazawa Once in a Lifetime, Glasgow 1770, Pinot de Chante's cask. Can we just pick easier to pronounce stuff next time? Mickeltor Turbo, Signatory Vintage 100 Proof Altmore, a Bunnahabhain 12, a Tamdhu 15, and the phenomenally doodled label of the Fragrant Drops Glenbergie 30-year-old. A pretty wide range there. Next, we're going to possibly the flavour fans of my channel like most, based on the numbers and comments. It is time for Best Peat and Smoked. Now, this is not only limited to the bangers of Islay, as the fingers of peat are everywhere these days. Why did I say that? Going in with my runner-up is Where Purple Fruits Meets Peat, a bottle which could have in fact lingered in the previous category too. We are talking about the newest cult in the whiskey world, the Sanag Gang, and picking Kilhoman Sanag. Yes, this is a little one, and also the bottle's a small one. This still counts for the list just because I've had so many drams of this year. I haven't actually felt the need to go buy a full bottle, but still, I needed it represented on the shelves. The Snake has quietly become one of Kilchoman's greatest hits. Bourbon and sherry cask with like a smoky, fruity hybrid. The nose is just fistfuls of blackberries and plums thrown onto a barbecue. Now it's very different to say like Ardbeg Ugadal. This somehow still managed to have a cleaner, less dirty aroma to it. Think sinking less into a bog and more quicksand. Yeah, salted toffees, shortbread biscuits, and it just kind of got jam smeared all over it with a good pump of smoke. There's a real syrupy dark fruits. The salty, earthy smoke is just fantastic and ties in so well with these like plummy soy sauce, savoury kind of funky town juice. This is very much a welcome addition for the sweet peat fan base. It really does show how great sherry and peat can be. Let's be frank, it is such a great category that we should all embrace. But this is only my runner-up. There is one which has really impressed me. I think it falls more into my current preference zone when it comes to peat. It is a fully different side in the smoky spectrum. Also, there is a slight emotional connection to it. Yes, it's an Aqua Vitae release, and I think this is my favourite out of them all. We are talking about the Ardnahoe 6-year-old bourbon barrel. One of the newest distilleries, but already impressing people with its worm tubs and old school attitude. Do check out my worm tub video for more information. I felt kind of smart in that video. Now, a 6-year-old whiskey shouldn't feel this kind of put together, composed, and I'm not saying it's not youthful, but it's kind of got, that's the wrong cork. So which one's missing a cork? I forgot what I was saying now. I don't need to go in too much depth about Roy and Aqua Vitae. I think I sing his praises too much, and my wife is borderline concerned. So she should be. I am also a bit of a sucker of Ardnahoe, with everything I've tried just being banging stuff. Though saying that, this is my first bottle to hit my shelf, but that is only because I'm so cheap and I'm waiting on a good discount somewhere. From trying this in Edinburgh nearly a year ago now, with Roy and a herd of brilliant barflies, this stood out above the rest, and we were getting some top drams. I think the one we had there may be slightly different between what the bottle we actually got. Maybe that's just ABV. I'm not quite sure, editor Jeff can find out. The sniff is just my childhood of bonfires on pebble beaches. There's a sweet and salty peat smoke, lemon sherbet sweets and like that vanilla cream soda drink, coastal cliff tops and like warm ashes. The taste is just kind of like a sit down and take it kind of thing. Well, not literally, because my chair is currently outside in the cold. Yeah, bags of bright citrus. There's a little bit of sharp lemon, but avoids that lemon soapy note you can find. I'm looking at you, Jura.
I'll kill you.
I feel like that joke must have upset the White Mackay gods because everything just crashed. Which feels like a nice Jeff Whisky throwback. Yeah, there's so much vanilla in here. There's a touch of like a medicinal twitch, a Lafroigy tint. Feel like you can tell it is on the younger side of whiskey, and I know I always state that age doesn't relate to quality, but it's more like contextually. Is that a word? But like the youth really brings the brightness with the bourbon barrel maturation. Yeah, it is. Zingy, juicy, a little fizzy. It is a tad hot. I think I tend to have it more of a drop of water, maybe at more 50% than 55, but yeah, just so good. The finish also has this kind of like burnt sugar, rich toffee finish just hanging around at the back of your throat. Ardnahoe is just capable of that pure coastal character, which I just love. Think your Kilchoman, Mackia Bay, Ardnamurchan, Old Pulteney. That is really my jam, and the peat profile just works. We have the slapper suggesting an SMWS Glen Scotia Alice in Campbelltown, Lecheg 18, which is a great shout, Lefroy 10 cash strength, 7-year-old first fill Ardnamurchan in a private cask, Saburu Maru 5 or V, should have looked it up first, and Kilchoman batch strength, as well as another vote for the not so duff Aqua Vitae Ardnahoe. I bet he's really fed up of those jokes. Just caught a glimpse of myself in the camera and I feel like this looks like a budget Benoit Blanc kind of outfit.
I think maybe you should take up drinking. You're just killing it.
I'm not sure if that's a good thing, but it's now time to talk wood and let's dive in with the woody and grainy category. Now, my runner-up is a bottle I don't have. I try to focus these videos on bottles I can hold and waft in front of your face, ones that I have sat with for some time and seen how it can vary dram to dram, but this was one that really blew me away. Worse so, it was a free sample, so yes, I am scum. I always actively try to keep any freebies away, especially samples on the channel, as there is this whole transparency thing, which is the big video coming up, so do subscribe for that. And in truth, I don't really get much communication from brands and I just don't know why. And I can't wait to get it up.
That's what she said.
But anyway, this one shouted so much, I'm going to briefly talk about it. A relatively new independent bottler reached out and posted pouches of a couple of their range, and this one just hit so hard, I need to talk about it. This is the Heart Cut, and I'm talking about their number 20, which is a Westland release. I tried quite a lot of their releases at the Bristol Whiskey Show last year, and I'm going to be doing the same again this year, so let me know if you're going in 2026. But I think out of all of them, this is my favourite. From a distillery I love, using Washington peat, it smells slightly akin to like a good Highland Park whiff. It's only a little smoky, but there's like lots of herby notes. There's plenty of woody spice with some chocolate and flowers. There was a lot more like creamy grain sweetness on the palate mixed with like white chocolate, toasty oak. I noted down like peanut butter, very subtle, fruity, earthy, floral smoke, a bit of toasty oak and just earthy spices like nutmeg. At the moment, it's £85 for a 50cl, which in truth is a bit beyond this peasant price point. In truth, I've always viewed 50cl a bit negatively. The smaller sizes felt a little sleight of hand, but over the last year, I can see how it allows the bottle to get into more hands. So a 70cl bottle this would work out around £119 for the people who don't like the small bottle maths. I think this would make it in the top 3 most expensive whiskey purchases I've ever made. Either way, the liquid is fantastic and I've been asking Whiskey Santa for it. Of course, this brings me on to my pick for this style, and it's a bottle I have purchased and I would definitely purchase again, and it's got to go to Knob Creek 9. This is big flavour, big value and a big personality. A caramel bourbon thunder gun, and one of the most reliable bourbons I have on the shelf nowadays. Like for me, this beats Wild Turkey 101, Maker's Mark 46, Jack Daniel, and I think most of the rest. The nose is really sweet and nutty, dry roasted peanuts, kind of like when you open that big KP bag, pub share style. Lots of caramels, vanilla, a little bit of cherry, but not like the Jack Daniel's artificial cherry notes, but you know those fancy jars you see at like fancy places, like those proper juicy ones. Yeah, the nose is definitely super woody. You know when you cut wood and it smells like really warm? It's that, and I've never sounded more manly. Palate is just full of lots of sweet oak, and it's just super warming off the first sip. So much brown sugar and baking spices, Paul Hollywood and Mick Jagger stuffed into a bottle, the dry, slightly tannic wood oak bits. Someone described it as like a warm Kentucky hug in a previous video where I mentioned this. I think it was one of the value ones, and I'm all here for that. It really delivers such consistency with each sip and just a quality wood influenced bourbon which somehow hasn't been over oaked. Just really, really good stuff. And talking of really good stuff, a huge shout out to my patrons who make these videos possible. They also get their say on all things slapwise and all round good eggs. If you have too much money and don't know what to do with it, you can join them and have your suggestions in future videos, such as the Slappers Woody picks of Glen Scotia 12, Deanston Virgin Oak, Ardnamurch and AD10, the Paul Lanius cask. Never know how to pronounce that. And of course, cheers, the YouTube channel members as well. I am now surrounded by glasses, so that must mean we're travelling on down to Funky Town, covering all the bases of one of the most well-loved flavours in the whiskey world. So we are talking the best funky whiskey. Coming in with a bottle I think I've spoken the most about this year, and of course that is the Benromach Peat Smoked. Benromach loves a bit of funk, and their Peat Smoked series has this weird and wonderful combo of smoke, fruit and like this slightly sooty old school character. So let's quickly dive into this distillery as it's its second appearance today, and it's certainly well deserved. Straight away, this nose has this awesome like sooty note. Like there's lemon rind, malty biscuits, orchard fruit, bonfire embers. Yeah, it's not super smoky, but it's like a little coal fire kind of thing. That subtle, dirty peat meets bright fruits like lemon curd, pepper. There's definitely that soot again. This is going to be a full sweep. Vanilla, charred wood, a little tiny bit of oily funk with that kind of like classic Ben Romack character. This really is just banging stuff. I've got to try the Ben Romack cask strength next because I think this, with a bit more ABV, would even take it to a further level. And I'm not someone who's like a cask strength purist. So finally, my fantastic funky winner of 2025 in the year that I got my hands on my first bottle of Springbank, it is of course going to be Brook Laddie Classic Laddie, a bottle I previously didn't understand in the slightest and disregarded as a relic that just stayed sat on the 2019 hype train. It seemed to get the nods from us nerds for the company and ethos and the ABV and not the liquid, but I was wrong. Very wrong, and I can admit that. This unpeated Isla, but still very much Isla, brings the funk with a lot of lactic, malty, cereal-driven oddities that gives it the charming funkiness. The nose has like green apple skin, salty air, seaweed, porridge with raisins, lemon peel, and of course that slightly cheesy thing. So this is a bit like a Stilton in the far distance. Taste-wise, it is creamy, slightly vegetable. It is a sweet malt. It's citrusy stuff in there as well. It's coastal, refreshing. It's like a funk light note. It is a little bit milky. A really good vanilla and banana milkshake. With booze, of course, because this is 50% ABV. But funk doesn't always mean heavy smoke, a slap bass or mouldy dunnage notes. Sometimes a whiskey is friendly and funky, which I feel like is quite well reflected with the slappers choices of Hazelburn 9-year-old, Ben Nevis 10, Springbank 12 cask strength, Glenallachie 17, Kilkerran 12, Commaga Take IPA cask finish 2025, and Meikle Tour Turbo. If you tried any of these, let me know your thoughts. If you haven't, apologies in advance to your wallet. I'm grateful to have you all here. All the best, and cheers to the next one.